2.4 million years ago. Discover the sinister secrets of haunted prehistoric survival. Liz's heart raced as she parked the car in front of her father's old house. Its once bright blue siding, now a splotchy canvas of peeling paint. The suburban neighborhood felt different, shadows creeping through the corners of her memory. Mia, her 8-year-old daughter, clutched her stuffed rabbit, glancing around with wide, fearful eyes. Whispers of the forgotten past hung heavy in the air. What secrets lay hidden here? They stepped inside, dust motes dancing like ghosts in the sunlight. As Liz opened the door, a sense of unease hit her. A chill crawled up her spine. The walls seemed to breathe. The remnants of her father's life surrounded them, boxes crammed with dust-laden memories and old photographs. Yet, something lurked just beyond the surface. Attachments to the past that felt watchful and predatory. Initially, the air buzzed with excitement as they unpacked. But as night fell, the house exhaled a sinister sigh. Strange noises echoed through the halls, a low, growling rustle that made Liz's pulse quicken. Outside, the neighbors' curtains twitched. She felt their eyes, disapproving glares measuring her worth. Rumors, whispers, she could sense the judgments seeping through their cracks. "Mom, what's that?" Mia's voice trembled, pulling Liz back to the present. A dark drawing lay on the floor, wild wolves, imposing and fierce, staring back at them. Liz felt a wave of nausea. Where had the innocent sketches gone? This was worse, twisted. She forced a smile. "It's just your imagination, sweetheart." But the next night, as storms raged outside, a chill seeped through their home, gnawing at Liz's sanity. Sounding like a distant growl, it echoed off the walls. Shaking, she looked above, eyes darting to where strange marks appeared on the cracked ceiling, their shapes resembling ominous symbols. "Just my dad's work," she reassured herself, but deep in her gut, doubt stirred. Liz couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The historian's face flashed in her mind, the knowing glint in his eye as he had leaned closer, whispering of their ancestral darkness. It was a feverish night when Mia, eyes wide with a fear Liz had never seen before, screamed from her bedroom. "Mom, the walls. They're moving." She raced to her daughter, heart pounding. The air thickened, a smothering weight pressing down. Liz swung the door open, only to see shadows swirling like smoke, forming into grotesque shapes dancing against the pale light. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Liz reached for Mia, terror making her fingers tremble. The shadows twisted tighter, and the deeper the darkness grew, the more she could hear it whispers promising power, a warm embrace, if only she would disregard her daughter. The wolves from Mia's drawing surged forward like a whirlwind, howling with a hunger that rattled through her bones. In that moment, Liz faced a primal fear, realizing her family's legacy wasn't just a bloodline. It was alive, awaiting its heir. Deep down, she knew she was at the center of something darkly powerful. Would she resist and protect Mia, or surrender to the malevolent force clawing at her heart? The house shuddered around them, and the shadows closed in. Who would prevail in this fight for survival? The answer danced just beyond reach in the flickering darkness. The air grew cold, and Liz's heart raced. Shadows writhed and coiled along the walls, whispering promises she couldn't ignore. How long had the darkness been waiting? The wolves inched closer, their glowing eyes glowing with a predatory gleam. They seemed almost alive, hungry for something far deeper than mere flesh. "Mom," Mia cried, jamming herself against the wall, her rabbit gripped tightly in trembling hands. The child's fear mirrored Liz's own, yet she was trapped, frozen between protecting her daughter and succumbing to ancestral pull whispering in her ear. "Stay close," Liz shouted, her voice breaking through the oppressive atmosphere. But her feet felt heavy, buried beneath an invisible weight. Instinct screamed at her to run, but her mind raced, weighing what lay behind the door against the darkness threatening to engulf them. From the corners of her vision, Liz could see the shadows crackle and hiss. Foul laughter echoed, filling the room like smoke. She felt a suffocating dread snaking around her throat. Every moment spent in the house stretched. The flickering light cast malicious shapes, twisted fingers drew nearer. "Mia, grab the flashlight," Liz managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "We need to," but before she could finish, a low growl rumbled deep within the shadows, silencing her. A monstrous shape emerged, half-formed, melting into the air like a nightmare refusing to fade. The walls pulsed. Echoes of a long-forgotten past seeped through. Liz's breath quickened, and she could feel the air grow thick and electric. The markings on the ceiling seemed to glow, a sickly green light suffusing the room. Liz's eyes widened when she realized they were not just symbols, they were eyes, watching, demanding, wanting something from her. A history that chilled her bones. "Mia," she gasped, reaching for her daughter. But Mia stood frozen, eyes locked onto the creature, entranced. Fighting against her instincts was like swimming against a tide. The darkness whispered louder now, promises curling around Liz's thoughts: power, strength, freedom from fear. But at what cost? Then, the floor beneath them groaned, splintering with cracks. Every breath became harder to catch as the very foundation of their home betrayed them. Liz pulled Mia close, her heart pounding at the sound of claws scraping the floor like fingernails on glass. "Don't look at it," Liz shouted, desperation clawing at her voice. "Mia, look at me." She cupped her daughter's face gently. It felt like holding onto a lifeline. With a quick motion, Liz clicked the flashlight on, illuminating the creature. Horror washed over both of them. It wasn't just a shadow, it was a grotesque amalgamation of their worst fears, a distorted reflection of the wolves from Mia's drawings. The creature growled again, and Liz felt the air leave her lungs, suffocated by the fear radiating from her daughter. "Mom, what is that?" Mia whispered, her small voice trembling. The question hung heavy in the air as the creature stepped forward, its ghastly features revealing sharp teeth glistening in the light. The shadows wrapped around them, hushing the frigid screams of the night. Could they escape this? Could Liz protect her child from the darkness that seemed to know them? Suddenly, an overwhelming force pushed against them, as if urging them to succumb. Liz tightened her grip around Mia, heart pounding as she contemplated their next move. But in that fleeting moment, a new thought ignited in her mind. Maybe the house wasn't just trying to take them. Perhaps it sought to awaken something dormant in Liz, something she could unleash. The power of their legacy surged, intertwining with fear and determination. As the darkness writhed and clawed around them, Liz prepared to stand her ground. She could feel it deep within her, the echo of generations past. They would not go quietly. What lay ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. But one thing was clear: the house's secrets were ready to be uncovered, and the fate of mother and daughter hung in the balance. With a deep breath, Liz met the creature's gaze. "We will not bow to this." In that instant of defiance, did they become more than prey? Or would the grip of darkness finally claim them? The shadows flickered, leaving Liz with one lingering question. What had awakened beneath her father's home? And would it be powerful enough to protect them or destroy them? The creature lunged, its grotesque jaw opening to reveal rows of jagged teeth, sharper than bone. Liz's heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out rational thought. Light from the flashlight flickered, casting eerie patterns on the walls as the beam trembled in her grasp. "Mia, behind me," Liz shouted, her voice a shrill bark against the rising tide of fear that swept through the room. She could barely stand against the primal surge of terror, but she wouldn't let her daughter face it alone. Mia flinched, pulling closer to her mother's side, and the creature halted, hesitating like a shadow playing with the light. Liz felt the chill of the air seeping into her bones, the darkness clawing at her resolve, whispering threats in a language only she could hear. "Why don't you want to play?" The shadows around the creature twisted, and Liz thought she heard the echo of a child's laughter mixing with their haunting growl. It was wrong, so very wrong, feeding off the lingering fear that pooled in the corners of her mind. Liz pressed the flashlight harder against Mia's chest, urging her towards the splintered staircase leading out. "We have to get out of here," she assessed, her eyes darting, searching for escape. But the staircase loomed ominously, full of shadows itself, as if it had become a living thing waiting to swallow them whole. But how? The creature was blocking the door, the only safe passage leading toward salvation. Think, Liz. She chastised herself. Memories of her father's stories flashed in her mind. Ancestral power, protection. Could it be real? Did it have the strength to fend off this beast? The creature stepped closer, crawling now, its wretched form weaving in and out of the shadows. Teeth glinted with fresh hunger, and Liz saw a glimmer of recognition in its eyes. Was it searching for something? A bond? A key to unlock an ancient pact? Mia, Liz whispered, feeling the weight of the moment. We need to fight. A deep breath, she could almost feel the ancient strength coursing through her, echoing with the blood of her ancestors. What do you want? She shouted at the creature, hoping against everything that some thread of understanding could pierce through its twisted form. It stopped, rearing back, and for a breath, silence consumed the room. Shadows stretched and shrank, trembling like the very air in her lungs. The markings on the ceiling pulsed, swirling in an anguished dance, as if responding to Liz's desperate question. Mamma Mia whimpered, her voice quivering in the silence. Liz turned to her, forcing a smile of reassurance, but her heart sank with dread. They were in the lion's den, and the lion was starving. No more, Liz said, her voice a fierce whisper as she realized something profound. She wasn't just defending. She was the key. Her heritage belonged to these remnants of power, the witches, the guardians, the forgotten ones. With a surge of energy, Liz thrust out her hand, straightening her spine as the creature went still. She whispered words she didn't understand, channeling her fear into a potent shield. A glow enveloped her hand, ethereal and pulsing. The creature recoiled, caught in the light's embrace. It howled, a sound that crashed through the air like thunder, echoing from the depths of the house. Shadows pulsed violently around them, urging Liz to relent. Mia, trust me. She clenched her jaw tighter, focusing all her fear and love into that flickering light, forcing it toward the creature. Suddenly, the house groaned beneath them, and the very wood seemed to shudder and awaken, echoing the cries from within its walls. Deep and violent, the heartbeat of the house matched Liz's own burgeoning courage. As if sensing the confrontation was shifting, the creature lunged, snapping at the light. But Liz stood her ground, heart racing with newfound fervor. It was a standoff, shadows blurring and twisting, the heart of the house throbbing dangerously. Could she hold on? Would this ancestral power prove enough to push back the darkness? The ground beneath shifted again as the walls rumbled, born of something ancient and alive. But as their game of tug-of-war continued, a sudden crack cut through the air, a sound deep and unsettling. Was it the walls protesting, or something else? Something far worse? In that crucial moment, Liz braced for impact, uncertainty cascading through her, as forces unknown stirred in the very depths of the house. Would she and Mia find a way to emerge victorious, or were they tangled in a deadly web spun eons before their cries echoed through the halls? An answer lingered in the air, thick with tension. The creature snarled, and Liz prepared herself for the battle ahead. What awaited them was even darker than they could imagine. What had truly awakened beneath her father's home. The ground trembled more than before, as if the house itself were alive, groaning in anguish from the turmoil within. Liz's instincts kicked in, each pulse of her heart echoing the dread surrounding them. Shadows danced around her, taunting, whispering memories half formed in her mind, half screams, half warnings. Mama, I'm scared. Mia's voice pierced through the chaos, shaky but sharp. Her small hand squeezed Liz's, grounding her for a moment. But Liz could feel the weight of shadows pressing in around them. I know, sweetie. Just stay close, Liz replied, the words feeling like feeble bricks against a raging storm. She flicked her gaze back to the creature, still frozen and snarling, dark shape bristling with malevolence. The light from her hand flickered, teetering on the edge of being snuffed out. What was it waiting for? The air thickened, suffocating, as Liz strained to hold on to hope while battling fear. She thought about her father's stories, how those with ancient blood could harness the darkness rather than succumb to it. But here, standing in the maw of horror, she was just a mother terrified for her child. The panic that twisted in her gut threatened to pull her under. Then, the creature lunged, unleashing a feral screech that rattled through her bones. Liz summoned every ounce of her being, pushing the glowing energy toward it with a force fueled by desperation. The light expanded, illuminating the corners of the room that had never seen the sun, a violent flash that painted everything in stark relief. The creature shrieked and recoiled, its anguished wail rising and falling like tortured wind. Liz felt the air shift, the pulsating shadows were retreating. But as one wall crumbled under the intensity of the confrontation, she realized it wasn't he just pushing the creature back. It was tearing part of the house with it. "Mama, look!" Mia pointed, voice laced with fear and awe. Liz turned to see jagged cracks spreading across the floorboards like veins, something slithering and stirring beneath. Whatever had slept for years was awakening, and the heartbeat of the house deepened, matching the rhythm of the chaos. "Mia, we have to go?" Liz shouted, but the echoes of her voice felt strange, almost swallowed by the groan of something lurking below. The ground pulsated, and with a raw, primal instinct, Liz grabbed Mia's hand tightly. They dashed towards the staircase, the weight of the creature's rage still heavy in the air. Every second unleashed a tidal wave of adrenaline. But just as hope flickered, the walls erupted with shattering force. A net of darkness braided with crimson light burst forth, rising to envelop the room. Tentacles of shadow lunged toward them, gliding like serpents, grasping at space, each one seeming to promise despair. "Run!" Liz yelled, but her lungs burned. They darted, heart pounding in sync with the echoing moans of the walls. Shadows clawed at their heels, just an inch away from melting into their skin. They stumbled, the light still clutched in Liz's hand, but flickering weakly, fading. She could barely think through the panic. Just one thought remained: escape. They needed to reach the door, but where was the way anymore? With every sprint forward, the shadows curled tighter, stealing any breath that dared break the silence. A sudden howl erupted behind them, a furious scream that chilled Liz to her core as they turned dimly to meet a familiar face in the dark. "Let me in," a voice cried, twisted and desperate, as if begging for salvage against the encroaching tide of night. Liz froze, her stomach dropped. It was her father, but how? The door loomed ahead, promising safety, but was it a facade? A single thought clawed at her mind: what price would they pay for shelter? As the shadows writhed closer, the screams of the house rose to meet them. "Mom!" Mia pulled at Liz, her small hands trembling. The choice was clear, but the truth presented was horrifying. Could they trust what lay behind that threshold? "What did you bring back home?" The creature's growl echoed, chilling Liz to her marrow as its form jerked, shattering any last remnants of hope. The air thickened, shadows swirling. Would they burst through the door as salvation, or be consumed by the horror intent on reclaiming them? What awaited them if they dared to proceed? The answer loomed like a specter in the air, pretending a terror that might be worse than what they faced. Mia's grip made Liz's heart ache. The bated breath of the creature curled around them, tighter than any embrace. Her father's face lingered in her mind, twisted by desperation, but there was no time to ponder its meaning. They had run most of their lives, from shadows and fears, but this time, it felt like the shadows were fighting back. "Mama, what do we do?" Mia's voice trembled like glass about to shatter. "I don't know," Liz's voice faltered. They stood at the threshold, heart pounding in her ears, torn between the dark promise of the door and the ominous shape behind them. Panic tore through her, urging her to act, to not let fear dictate their fate. The house groaned again, a low, threatening rumble that vibrated through the floor. Something deep in the walls was awakening, something that had waited, hungry and ready. Shadows began coiling upward, inching toward Mia's delicate ankles, pulling at the fabric of her jeans. "Mama!" Mia yelped, the tremor in her voice driving a spear of ice through Liz's heart. Reacting on instinct, she yanked her daughter backward, pulling her to safety, but the shadows swirled with mischievous intent, shifting like smoke. "Stay close," Liz shouted, forcing them both away from the door. They had to find a way out. She could feel the walls pressing inward, like old bones shifting in the grip of an ancient nightmare. "Mom, what if we let him in?" Mia's innocent fear mixed with the rising tension around them. "What if he can help?" "Don't say that," Liz shot back, the urgency overtaking her. If Liz even had time to think, she wouldn't trust the shadows for anything. But her mind struggled, yearning for hope, for anything that could save them now. Then, without warning, the door swung open with a creaking groan, revealing a dim light that flickered like a dying flame. "Help me. Please help me." The voice was softer, more desperate than before, but a darkness coiled behind it. Liz felt something cold washing over her, blurring the line between light and dark. "There's no guarantee you'll be safe," Liz yelled, her head spinning. The shadows pulsed like a predator sensing weakness. "Mama, I want to go," Mia begged, eyes wide with fear. In that moment, the ground beneath them cracked, splintering the air with a sound that could rival thunder. Liz stumbled, nearly falling as the house quaked violently. Tendrils of shadow writhed as if angered by their hesitation. "Mia, we must run." Liz grabbed her daughter, lunging toward the staircase just as the world erupted into chaos around them. The lights flickered out, plunging them into darkness. The air became thick, harder to breathe, filled with the smell of damp earth and fear. "Don't look back," Liz shouted, fear clawing at her as their feet raced against the decaying wood. The house shuddered. A cacophony of groans and shrieks followed them. Liz could feel the walls closing in, the remnants of her past mingling with the dark. Desperate memories of her childhood echoed, shadows whispering, her father's warning ringing in her ears, "Never invite them in." As they reached the top of the staircase, a flash of light illuminated a hallway beyond them. There, an old door stood ajar, the wood splintered and worn, like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. "Mom, the shadows. They're right behind us." Mia tugged at her skirt, eyes brimming with tears. Liz looked back, her heart racing. A seething mass writhed at the bottom of the stairs, eyes like glowing coals burning with twisted intent. They were nearly upon her, ready to claim their prize. "Mama, we can't," Mia whimpered. "No, we must. Trust me." Liz pushed forward with all her might, determined to reach that door. But even as the light beckoned, she felt the cold, dark fingers clawing at her ankles. "Believe, Mia. We have to believe." With one final shove, they lunged through the door, crashing into a blinding light. The world twisted, a surge of power spiraling around them. The shadows clawed desperately at their heels, but they surged onward, tossed into a realm that felt both terrifying and wondrous. What lay beyond the door? Was it freedom or just another layer of deception? As the shadows shrieked behind them, Liz and Mia tumbled into the unknown. The chaos faded, but the darkness hung, waiting. And somewhere deep inside, the whispers started again. What had they really escaped? The truth loomed over them, darker than anything they'd left behind. Light enveloped them, bright and blinding, casting away the shadows that had chased them. Liz stumbled forward, her heart racing with adrenaline. She gasped, trying to take in her surroundings. They stood in a strange, cavernous space, echoes of whispers bouncing off damp stone walls. The ground was slick beneath their feet. "Mama, what is this place?" Mia's small voice trembled, breaking through the silence that pressed around them like a heavy fog. "I don't know," Liz admitted, her throat dry. Her eyes darted around, searching for an exit or for something, anything that could explain where they were. In front of them loomed towering stalagmites. Their jagged shapes emerged from the ground like ancient teeth, glistening with moisture. Strangely colored shadows danced in the flickering light. They moved of their own accord, taunting and teasing, almost like living beings. "Mama, I want to go home." Mia clutched her mother's hand tightly, her small fingers digging into Liz's skin. Panic flooded Liz's heart. "Me too, baby. But we have to keep moving," Liz replied, forcing determination into her voice. Slowly, they began to walk deeper into the cavern, the air growing colder, thick with a suffocating dread that pulled around them like a heavy shroud. As they ventured further, the whispers grew louder, murmuring indistinctly in an ancient language. Liz felt as if the very walls were alive, yearning to share their secrets, yet suffocated by the length of time. "Mama, I hear them." Mia's eyes widened with fear as she glanced over her shoulder, glancing back at the door they had come through. "What if they find us?" Liz cringed at the thought. The shadows behind them were probably biding their time. They were relentless. "Here, look." Mia suddenly pointed to a small alcove just off the main passage. A glimmer caught Liz's eye. In the dim light, she could see what appeared to be an inscription carved into the stone, worn but still legible. "The past is never truly gone. It lingers and waits." The words sent a chill coursing through her. Never truly gone. What did it mean? Had they not escaped at all? Had they only stepped into another snare? As Liz contemplated the eerie inscription, Mia's fingers slipped from her grip. Liz turned, panic swelling as she spotted Mia standing frozen, her face pale and eyes wide with terror. "Mama, the shadows," she whispered, voice barely audible. Liz spun around. The darkness was creeping in, tendrils of blackness slowly curling around the stalagmites, rising higher. In the corners of her vision, she could see grotesque figures emerging, their eyes glimmering like dying stars. They reached for them, thin, skeletal hands stretching hungrily. "Mia, run!" Liz yelled, terror surging through her veins. She took her daughter's hand again, pulling her close as they bolted deeper into the cave. The walls echoed their footfalls. Their breaths came in jagged gasps as they sprinted past gargoyle-like formations, desperately searching for a way out. The whispers grew into a cacophony, drowning them in a wave of sound. "Why did you come here?" They seemed to echo, words falling like stones into the air. "You cannot escape." Suddenly, they reached a wall, a dead end. Liz's heart sank. "Mama, what do we do?" "Mia, listen to me. We have to fight. Remember Dada's stories?" But as she turned to hold her daughter, Liz's heart dropped. Mia was gone, swallowed by the gathering gloom, her terrified screams piercing the air. "Mia!" Liz shouted, dread clawing at her lungs. The shadows surged, and Liz braced herself, adrenaline coursing through every fiber of her being. She wasn't ready to lose her daughter, not now, not ever. With a primal scream, she lunged toward the darkness, ready to confront whatever awaited her in that swirling void. What would she find, her daughter, or something far worse? The darkness swallowed her whole, and Liz vanished into the night, leaving only the echoes of despair. The sensation of falling ripped through Liz as she plunged into the inky abyss. Time distorted, it felt like an eternity, a moment, all wrapped into one surge of fear. Her heart thundered, pumping adrenaline that coursed like fire through her veins. She landed hard, breath knocking from her lungs, the cold stone biting at her skin. "Mia!" The desperation clawed at her throat, a raw, urgent wail that echoed around her, swallowed by the oppressive darkness. But there was no answer. Only the whispers, growing louder now, swirling around her like a thick fog, suffocating her hope. She pushed herself up, gasping. Her surroundings were an unfamiliar stretch of twisted stone and eerie shadows that consumed every flicker of light. It was like being trapped inside a black hole, the oppressive weight of despair clawing at her insides. As Liz scrambled to her feet, panic surged. "Where am I? What happened to Mia?" Each thought spiraled into a cacophony of dread, overwhelming her senses. She took a few unsteady steps, her feet sliding on slick stone, forcing her to regain her balance. The whispers surrounded her, a disjointed chorus that sent chills skittering down her spine. "Find her," one voice rasped, thin and crackling. "She needs you, do not abandon her," another faint whisper echoed. Liz's chest tightened. "They knew about Mia? Who are you?" Her voice trembled, visceral fear licking at her like flames. "What do you want?" The air thickened, as if the cavern itself drew a breath, cloaking her in a suffocating opacity. The shadows stretched, elongating into grotesque forms. Darkness bent in ways a mind shouldn't comprehend. Liz stumbled backward, her pulse racing, backing into an outcrop of rock as terror surged anew. "Mama!" A familiar voice, a ghost of her daughter, pierced through the oppressive silence. But it drifted, fading like smoke. "Mia!" She screamed again, a desperate plea that shattered the fractured quiet. Liz dashed forward, driven by the dim echo of her daughter's voice. Each step felt like a trap, the ground alive beneath her feet, searching for her, reaching out. As she rounded a corner, a portal opened, a new chamber, larger and more sinister. Dim darkness danced around the edges of her vision. In the center, a grotesque altar rose from the floor, draped with damp vines that glimmered with something wet in the faint light. Liz stepped closer, her breath hitching. The altar was carved with ancient, cryptic symbols resembling faces twisted in agony. "Mama!" Mia's voice echoed again, clearer this time, but distorted, bouncing eerily as if it was trapped within the walls. It came from beyond the altar. "Mia, I'm coming." Saliva pooled in her mouth, her heart racing as she hurtled forward, narrowly avoiding the jagged edges of the stone. Don't. Mia's voice rippled through the air, terrifically panicked. They're waiting for you. Liz froze. Reality twisted as a wave of dread crashed over her. But I have to save you. Her voice cracked, the desperation wrapping around her, binding her between resolve and terror. Nobody ever leaves. A whisper slithered through the air, sinister and cold. You will join her. You will stay. Eyes shot through Liz as a surge of darkness enveloped her, twisting and turning, an endless void reaching out with skeletal fingers. Suddenly, Mia's face appeared in the shadows, eyes wide with a mix of hope and terror, reaching out. Mama, please. Liz lunged forward, terrified of what she might find, of what might take her. The altar loomed closer, and the whispers crescendoed, a solid wall of noise surrounding her, drowning her resolve. With every ounce of courage, she grit her teeth and pulled away from the edges of despair, determined to face whatever awaited her. But as she took the first step forward, the shadows shifted. Suddenly the ground trembled violently, and Liz staggered, losing her balance. What would happen next? Would she find Mia, or become trapped in this dark web of whispers, forever lost to its sinister grasp? A deep, twisted laughter echoed across the chamber, chilling her blood. Where was she? What were the whispers hiding? The darkness seemed to leer, and in that moment, the dread was palpable. Liz took a breath, ready to face whatever horror awaited her. But the real questions haunted her. What price would she pay for the truth? Would she dare discover it? The tremors quieted, replaced by a suffocating silence thicker than the darkness. Liz found herself frozen. The altar loomed ahead, a grotesque centerpiece of this nightmare. Swallowing hard, she could hear her own heartbeat like a drum in her ears, each thud a reminder of her living flesh against the stillness of the stone. Mama! Mia's voice cried out again, a delicate thread of hope punctured by the surrounding dread. It beckoned her, pulled at her heart, threatening to shatter her resolve. Liz squeezed her eyes shut, fighting the swirling shadows around her, battling the temptation to turn back to the familiar horrors she had known. Don't be afraid, I'm coming, she shouted, desperation fueling her voice, echoing into the cavern. But the answer was silence, broken only by the whispers that flanked her now like invisible phantoms. Join her, they taunted. With renewed determination, she stepped closer, the altar looming taller above her, as if it were alive and breathing. Dark tendrils of mist curled around its base, whispering secrets she couldn't quite catch. Each symbol on the altar glistened, almost wet, filling Liz with a primal fear that felt insatiable. What had happened here? What price had been paid? Suddenly, the shadows coalesced, morphing into twisted silhouettes that flickered at the edge of her vision. She recognized no faces, yet the familiarity felt visceral. They raised their arms as if welcoming her, urging her to join the dark congregation. A chill cut through her as a thought flashed in her mind. These figures weren't lost souls, they were the guardians of this forsaken place. No, Liz shouted, her voice breaking the spell of their hold. I want to belong to you. Too late, the air whispered back, a chilling echo of her defiance. The shadows lurched forward, forming claw-like hands that reached toward her. Liz recoiled, fighting against her instincts to cower. She turned back to the altar. There was something there, calling, urging. Mama! Mia's voice rang out again, more desperate now, piercing through the dark like a blade. Where are you? Liz cried, helplessness creeping into her chest, making it hard to breathe. Then she saw it a flicker beyond the altar's stone visage, an ethereal glow spilling like liquid silver across the ground. It shimmered, beckoning. She had to get to it. As she dashed forward, the shadows scrambled, desperate to hold her back. With each step, the whispers grew more agitated, voices overlapping in a shrill cacophony. Stay with us, join us now. Liz howled, each syllable shot through with raw defiance. You don't control me. But the ground beneath her feet shifted violently again, a pulse of energy radiating from the altar. She was losing her footing, grasping at the slick stones. She stumbled, her heart racing, the cold tendrils of dread wrapping tighter around her. She reached the edge of the altar, her fingers sliding against the cool, damp surface. The glow pulsed, illuminating Mia's face for a split second, a face filled with fear and desperation. Don't let them take you. Hold on, Liz screamed, locking her gaze onto her daughter's. No more hesitation. She could still save her. With a surge of energy, Liz pushed herself up, ready to step into the blinding glow beyond the altar. Suddenly, the whispers reached a fever pitch, shrill and haunting. The shadows clawed toward her, stretching, morphing into grotesque visages that dripped malice. Liz's vision blurred as she fought against their pull, clinging to the glimmer that promised hope. "Mama!" Mia's cry shattered the air, and the world around Liz began to fracture, splitting into a mosaic of darkness and light. In that heartbeat of chaos, Liz felt time freeze. She was on the cusp of discovery, the promise of Mia resting just beyond, but would she be able to reach it? Or would the darkness swallow her whole? The shadows swirled around her, and Liz stood at the precipice of an unfathomable choice. Step into the light and risk everything, or be consumed by the void. Which path would she take? Terror gripped her as she felt the encroaching darkness close in on her. Time held its breath, waiting. In the chaotic mix of light and shadow, Liz felt gravity shift, pulling her toward a destiny intertwined with darkness. Trembling, she barely registered the altar's cold stone against her palms. The whispers sizzled in her ears, feeding off her fear, as the light beckoned with a warmth that promised salvation. "Mama!" Mia cried again, her voice soaked in pure panic. The weight of not knowing pierced Liz's heart. Haunted faces materialized within the shadows, twisted mouths grinning, eyes hollow with madness. They shifted closer, their hungry breaths fogged the air around her. "Join us, it's safer here," they hissed, laced with an allure that felt oh so familiar. They were inviting her into the fold, promising escape from the struggle, but at what cost? "No," Liz shouted, ripping her gaze from the horror etched in their features. She concentrated on the glow, forcing her legs to abandon their paralysis. She took a tentative step, then another, desperately driving herself forward. The altar shuddered beneath her, and the steady pulse of that dark energy intensified. It felt sentient, almost alive, a throbbing pulse reminding her of every moment she'd fought to protect Mia. "Just a little closer," she whispered urgently, summoning strength from the depths of her fear. But the shadows lunged, clawing at her with frigid fingers that sipped warmth like a leech. Liz could almost feel their grasp tightening around her throat. "Come to us, dear one," they cooed, each syllable a dagger in her resolve. "She already belongs to us." "No." The word escaped in a strangled gasp. Liz's vision narrowed as she channeled every fiber of her being into those few paces forward. She had to reach Mia. Then Liz stumbled again, her foot sliding over slick stone, and she fell to her knees, hands digging into the earth for purchase. A scream tore through her as the shadows swirled in, thick and suffocating. Panic surged. "Mama!" Mia's voice echoed clearer now, a lifeline. It resonated through Liz, igniting an instinct as primal as survival. Liz's heart raced. She had never felt such fierce love, such raw urgency. "Stay with me, Mia." Gripping the edges of the altar, Liz forced herself back onto her feet. The glow pulsed brighter, washing over her in tendrils of heat that drowned out the cold dread. One last push, and she could reach Mia. The shadows coiled around her ankles like serpents, hissing threats while pulling her back into darkness. Clenching her teeth, Liz fought them off, hearing their shrieks transform into a chorus of despair as she stood taller, lifting herself into the light that swirled around her. "Mia," she shouted, surpassing the cacophony of chaos. "I'm coming." And, just as she felt the light envelop her, a sudden jolt rippled through the ground, sharp and violent. The altar before her cracked, revealing a yawning abyss. Liz's instincts screamed to pull away, but she remained locked in place, torn between light and darkness. "Mama!" The pleading voice of her daughter jolted Liz out of her daze. When she looked again, Mia was there, her small form illuminated like a beacon amidst the ruin. But right behind her lurked a dark silhouette, looming, sinister, obscuring the glow. Liz's breath caught in her throat as dread unfurled inside her. What was that shadow? A trap waiting to ensnare Mia? Just then, the ground quaked once more, shaking the very foundation of her resolve. The shadows, shrieking louder, turned to shrill laughter that reverberated in her head. In that moment, Liz didn't just want to save Mia. She needed to uncover the truth of this place. But what horrors awaited her in that abyss? And as Liz's heart thundered, she felt both a terrifying pull toward the void and an irresistible urge to save the only light she had. Would she step back into darkness, or would she face the entity waiting in the shadow and uncover the secret it harbored? A decision hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Time slowed once more, waiting for her answer. Liz gripped the edges of the altar, a surge of raw energy pulsing beneath her hands. The darkness writhed like a living creature, hungry and alive, desperate to snatch any hope away. She could feel it, every whisper, every shadow coiling tighter around her. But her heart thundered for one reason only. Mia? Mama. Her daughter's voice rang out again, filled with fear so palpable it cut through the haze of shadows. Liz's resolve ignited, burning bright against the consuming darkness. She would not falter. Not now. With a fierce cry, Liz pushed toward the light, every step feeling like a leap into an unseen abyss. The shadows clawed at her, a chorus of hisses and taunts that sought to drag her backward. You will join us. Liz, become one with the darkness, they crooned, voices thick with malice. But love for her daughter surged like an unstoppable wave, propelling her forward. Stay with me, Mia. The altar twisted under the tension, cracks splintering outward. With each heartbeat, it pulsed in response to her inner resolve. Liz could see Mia beyond the altar, a glimmering silhouette amidst the churning darkness. A wave of frantic hope surged through her as she shouted, I'm coming, sweetheart. The shadows loomed larger now, monstrous shapes distorting from the walls, eager fingers reaching out to snuff out her light. Still, she pressed on, feeling that fierce maternal bond tighten like a lifeline. The flickering glow enveloped her, warming her skin like sunlight on a spring day. Mama! Mia's voice filled the cavern, a sweet, desperate cry that broke through the chaotic whispers. Help me! The plea reverberated deep within Liz's core, each syllable propelling her forward. Suddenly, the altar split with a thunderous crack. A gaping chasm opened, revealing depths of midnight black that threatened to swallow everything whole. The air thickened, charged with a nefarious energy that felt like poison. No! Liz screamed, fear cascading through her as she fought against the dark arms reaching for her, pulling her back into the maw. But she wouldn't allow herself to be torn from Mia's side. Gritting her teeth, Liz steadied herself. Mia! She yelled once more, the sound of her daughter's name ringing out like a beacon. Stepping closer to the edge, she felt that familiar, shining warmth tugging at her heartstrings, guiding her through the chaos. Liz focused all her love, all her fury at the darkness, channeling it into one final push. You will not take us, she shouted defiantly. With a primal scream that echoed off the walls, she lunged forward, arms outstretched, desperate to reach that elusive glow. The shadows shrieked in fury, recoiling against her fervor. She never faltered, never looked back, fueled by pure determination. In a blaze of blinding light, Liz plunged into the unknown, arms wrapping tightly around Mia, pulling her close with fierce urgency. The darkness roared around them, a cacophony of rage and fear, but the light enveloped them, finally breaking the shadows around her. When the blinding illumination faded, they emerged into a tranquil clearing bathed in warm golden sunlight. The grove, alive with vibrant colors and the melodic hum of nature, felt like a sanctuary, untouched by the horrors that had clung to them. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, as if welcoming them home. Mama! Mia gasped, relief washing over her face as she squeezed her mother's hand, eyes bright with the joy of safety. We're safe. Liz knelt, pulling Mia into a tight embrace, feeling the warmth of her daughter's body, reassuringly familiar and real. We made it, she breathed, fighting back tears that threatened to spill over. No more shadows. No more hiding. But as the wind blew softly, Liz felt that lingering weight, a sense of duty, a lingering whisper of the past, echoing through her being. She understood then that they had escaped, yet the legacy of shadows still wove through their existence. I will protect you. Always, she promised, looking down into Mia's wide, trusting eyes. Whatever it takes. With that vow clutched in their hearts, Liz and Mia walked hand in hand through the eerie grove. Though the darkness had pursued them and the scars would linger, strength had bloomed from love. They would forge ahead, carrying forward the lessons of their past, blending the shadows with the light not as victims, but as warriors of their own fierce legacy. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows behind them as they stepped into an uncertain but hopeful future. Together, they had faced oblivion and emerged whole, and as they walked, Liz felt a flicker of ancestral strength echo within her. They wouldn't run from the past, they would embrace it. Now, their journey truly began. You need to subscribe now to catch all our upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. We want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Show your support for the channel.